When Lyudmila Pavlichenko walked into the White House in September 1942, the cameras captured only a fraction of what stood before them. They saw a young woman in a Soviet uniform. They saw discipline in her posture. They saw seriousness in her face. What they did not see were the months of mud, blood, smoke, and silence that had shaped her into someone the war would never release. She was 25 years old. By that age, most people are still learning who they are. Lyudmila had already learned how to wait without moving for days, how to measure the wind by the movement of leaves, how to recognize death in the smallest human mistake. She had already killed 309 Nazi soldiers, more confirmed kills than many entire infantry units would achieve across years of fighting. She was not proud. She was not ashamed. She was alive.
Lyudmila Nikolaevna Pavlichenko was born in 1916 in Bila Tserkva, a town that would later belong to Ukraine but at the time existed within a collapsing empire. Her earliest years were framed by revolution, civil war, famine, and uncertainty. Stability was rare, violence was familiar, survival was not an abstract idea, it was a daily requirement. Her family eventually moved to Kyiv, a city that promised opportunity but delivered pressure. Lyudmila grew up serious and self-contained. She worked in a factory while studying history at Kyiv University. She was competitive, independent, and deeply resistant to being underestimated. Those who knew her described her as disciplined and quiet, but unyielding once she set her mind on something. At a local shooting club, she found a discipline that suited her perfectly. Shooting demanded patience, control, and emotional restraint. It rewarded stillness rather than aggression. Lyudmila practiced obsessively. She competed against men and refused to lose. What others treated as recreation, she treated as craft. Then, in June 1941, Nazi Germany invaded the Soviet Union. Operation Barbarossa unleashed a scale of destruction that remains unmatched. Entire Soviet armies were encircled and destroyed. Millions were captured or killed within months. Cities burned, villages disappeared. The Eastern Front became a machine designed to consume human lives. Lyudmila did not hesitate. She volunteered immediately for military service. At the recruitment office, officers looked at her and saw a woman. They offered her a nursing position. She refused. They offered support roles. She refused again. She demanded combat duty. Eventually, perhaps skeptical or simply exhausted by her persistence, they handed her a rifle. She demonstrated her marksmanship. She was accepted. Lyudmila was assigned as a sniper to the 25th Rifle Division. Snipers occupied a unique and dangerous place in warfare. They operated alone or in pairs, isolated from friendly forces, often surrounded by the enemy. Their task was not only to kill, but to disrupt, to intimidate, and to slow entire advances through fear. Her first combat came near Odessa. The fighting was chaotic and desperate. Soviet units were retreating, poorly supplied and outgunned. Death was sudden and constant. Lyudmila's first confirmed kills came quickly. She learned that hesitation meant death. Emotion had to be buried. Focus had to be absolute. Sniping demanded an endurance most soldiers never experienced. She lay motionless for hours in rubble, trees, and shallow pits scraped into the earth. Hunger gnawed. Thirst burned. Insects crawled across her skin. She ignored it all. She learned to slow her breathing until even the rise of her chest felt dangerous. She studied the enemy relentlessly, the way German soldiers walked, the posture of officers, the habits of trained snipers. She learned to recognize disturbed soil, unnatural shadows, the faint glint of a scope lens in sunlight. She hunted men who were trained to hunt her. When Odessa fell, her unit withdrew to Sevastopol. There, the war intensified into something closer to annihilation
Sevastopol was besieged for months. Artillery thundered without pause. Bombs turned buildings into dust. Fires burned uncontrollably. Corpses lay where they fell because burial was impossible. The smell of decay was constant. Sleep came in fragments, if at all. It was in Sevastopol that Lyudmila Pavlichenko became feared. She participated in sniper duels, silent psychological wars between two unseen enemies. These were not brief encounters. They could last hours, days. The slightest movement meant death. Victory belonged to whoever could wait longer, endure more, and remain calm when exhaustion set in. She won 36 confirmed sniper duels. One duel lasted 3 days. For 3 days, she did not move. Her muscles locked. Pain radiated through her body. Her mind narrowed to a single point. When it ended, she fired once. The German sniper never fired again. By May 1942, Lyudmila had 309 confirmed kills. Confirmation required witnesses, which meant the real number was likely higher. German forces knew her name. They broadcast messages over loudspeakers offering rewards if she defected: chocolate, safety, rank. When she refused, the messages turned cruel. Threats of torture, threats of death. She listened without response. Later, she joked that at least they had counted her kills correctly. But war exacts a price. Friends died beside her. Fellow snipers were killed in seconds. Young soldiers froze in terror and never moved again. Lyudmila absorbed each loss silently. Eventually, a mortar shell exploded nearby, sending shrapnel into her face. She survived, but the injury ended her frontline service. Soviet command intervened, not out of mercy, but calculation.
Lyudmila had become too valuable as a symbol to lose. She was pulled from combat and reassigned as a representative of Soviet resistance. Her mission was political. She was sent to the United States to pressure the Western Allies to open a second front against Nazi Germany. In America, Lyudmila encountered a different kind of battlefield. Reporters asked about her appearance, why she wore no makeup, why her uniform looked masculine. One asked whether women at the front worried about nail polish. This was a woman who had lived among corpses, who had killed hundreds to survive, who carried shrapnel in her body and grief in her mind. She endured it. Then, in Chicago, she spoke. "Gentlemen," she said, "I am 25 years old and I have killed 309 fascist invaders. Don't you think you have been hiding behind my back for too long?" The room erupted. For the first time, many Americans realized they were not listening to propaganda. They were listening to a soldier. First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt understood immediately. She befriended Lyudmila, defended her publicly, and took her on a speaking tour across the country. Roosevelt later wrote that Lyudmila was one of the most extraordinary women she had ever met. But admiration did not heal trauma. After the war, Lyudmila Pavlichenko never returned to combat. She trained snipers. She worked as a historian. She lived quietly. The Soviet Union celebrated the myth: medals, parades, posters. But the woman behind the legend struggled. She suffered from post-traumatic stress, nightmares, alcoholism, isolation. The war never truly ended for her.
Lyudmila Pavlichenko died in 1974 at the age of 58. History remembers Lady Death. It remembers the number. It remembers the legend. It forgets the cost. It forgets the woman shaped by violence, dismissed by those who underestimated her, and forever marked by war. Her story is not about glorifying death. It is about what war demands and what it takes from those who survive.